Yeah, this is 100% a bitch-free zone. So.
We're men, and we're not afraid to say that we love other men.
What up, G?
My life is nothing I thought it should be and everything I was worried it would become, because for 50 seconds I thought there was monsters on the world.
What Augean stable of misery do you live in if you fantasize about driving a bus or sitting on a bench? What's next, a breakfast eating simulator? Oh, careful not to burn your digital toast. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go play an office simulator. Oh, no wait, that's my job.
Whoa, I think I just figured something out, Beavis. What? This sucks. Yeah, it really sucks. This sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
Don't say no for an answer. There's no
Can I see more white women getting clotheslined, please?
People don't understand. People don't understand. People like me. Cause these eyes can see right through you. Don't be surprised.
So Snoop Dogg wins the match because Shane McMahon blew his knee out.
Damn, that was bad, bro.
People don't understand. People don't understand. No, people don't understand. People don't understand. No, people don't understand. People don't understand. People like me.
What up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back here for another episode of the Ballroom Podcast, episode 86 here of the show, and I'm joined here with my friends. Quick question mark? Hey,
Oh, Jesus. Why don't you just have that Freudian slip that meant good friends?
I was gonna say beautiful, but then that was like even the worst Freudian slip. So I was just like, yeah, you were friends. You guys are friends. I consider you guys friends. But
Well, yeah,
joining us.
Women are here.
Yeah, no, that's the thing though. It's like
So beautiful doesn't exactly work.
All the women tonight are either sick or having like existential crisis right now. So it's like, you know, it's that time in the month apparently. So yeah, it's just the boys. It's boys' night out here until Rick shows up. But until then, we have our good buddy Rob Model joining us once again. How you doing tonight, Rob?
I'm pretty good.
And our good buddy Orange Hat is also joining us. How you doing tonight, Orange?
Yeah, I'm doing.
It's the best you could say, I guess, at this point. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about here tonight, and we're going to start off the show on a big old rant. But before we do all that, we have to introduce our people in the chat joining us right now. We are live here on YouTube and on X and on Rumble. All three platforms. People are going to be trickling in as the show goes on here. A good buddy Top Dog joining us here early, asking the question: is Caitlin Clark the girl that the whole sports world got mad at last year for doing the John Cena "You Can't See Me"? Yes, she is, and we'll talk about her later on in the show because apparently she's getting even more heat now for just just being a heterosexual white woman. So we'll talk about that later on the show. Neozoic is joining us here tonight, saying howdy barroom crew and the folks in the chat. Question: which prequel trilogy film would you rather watch? The Star Wars prequel trilogy or the Hobbit prequel trilogy? Orange Hat, this seems like a question designed for you, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you shoot this one first.
I would definitely say the Star Wars prequel trilogy. I like the Star Wars prequel trilogy. I grew up with the original and the prequel trilogy. They're both Lucas era. While the prequel trilogy is flawed, I still think it was actually very good in my opinion. Subjectively.
Rob, what do you think?
Hobbit trilogy, not so much.
Yeah, I saw episode 1 when I was 10. So that gives you an idea of how much that ruined my childhood, having grown up with the original movies. As much as I think the Hobbit movies absolutely fucking suck and shouldn't have been made, there's enough people that think they are okay, where I'm willing to revisit them. I mean, I don't even think I saw the third one because I was so fucking disgusted by it. I mean, this was almost a decade ago when those movies were coming out. So that tells you how much I've just been, in terms of intellectual property movies, just kind of been out of it. But I would give the slight edge to the Hobbit movies.
I'll probably have to go with the Star Wars movies because, like I said, I really enjoyed the Lord of the Ring movies, but I think the Hobbit movies, for whatever reason, just didn't click with me. I think it was a much bigger step down than with Star Wars, which sounds weird to say because obviously Star Wars gets more heat. The prequel trilogy gets more heat for being bad, but I still think like the Hobbit was a much bigger drop down. Then maybe that's because I actually view the Lord of the Rings trilogy in better terms than I view the Star Wars trilogy, but that's just me. So yeah, I would go with the prequel based on that. Then the bonus question here from Neo says that, in honoring of Carl Weathers, what is your favorite Carl Weathers movie or performance? For me, I would probably have to go with Happy Gilmore, if I'm being completely honest with you, because I think that one just like stands out to me more than like a lot of his other ones. I'm like, yeah, he did like 4 Rocky movies, and no, obviously that's what's gonna be known on his title, but I just love that the Happy Gilmore movie. Like I said, it's still one of the best, arguably the best Adam Sandler movie that he's ever done. So, what do you guys think? I'll start with Rob.
Yeah, I would say that's probably it for me, but just going a little bit different, I would say him playing himself on Arrested Development is still one of the funniest things he ever did, and it's one of the funniest things on that show. So I've always loved that. I mean, I know he's been in like those countless action movies, and he's been great in those, but yeah, I just loved his comedic turn in Arrested Development.
Yeah. Orange.
As for me, the first movie I saw him in was Predator. I saw it at a young age. Then I saw the Rocky movies after that. But honestly, I do like him in the Rocky movies. That dude literally oozed American patriotism and the American way. I mean, you couldn't get more patriotic than Apollo Creed. And he didn't even make it about he didn't even make it about race. He's like, this is the land of opportunity.
I mean,
well,
he pretty much insulted. Sure. I'm sure there were a few little racial epithets in there about Rocky being chump, but yeah, no, I mean, but that's just banter to sort of, it's
the hype shit.
Yeah.
I love what he says about Paulie. He's like, and who is that? Al Capone?
Right.
So who else do we got here? Spencer's obviously joining us here tonight, saying that Rob, you're the only person actually acknowledged the Arrested Development appearances on that show. Who else we got here? Vanya joining us, saying, hey, fine folks. Duke Nukem joining us here. I think he's getting a Zorro reference. That's right. You just dig up like the weirdest references like out of nowhere. I don't know if it's an uncanny thing or not, but Orange Chat, you guys gonna be seeing him in the chat. Says, but does the Monsters of the World remind me of Cider? I would have to see it in order to see. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not, but I would have to see the comparison.
That guy in the intro, that guy that says there's monsters on the world, he reminds me of Cider for some reason.
Tim Robinson, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Like a slightly less high version of Cider.
Yeah. Less high, more depressed, I guess.
Yes. Existential crisis.
Shorter hair.
Keely joining us here tonight as well. Duke Nukem saying the Hobbit movie sucked. So yeah, just going straight into it. Hopper joining us here tonight. Rooftop Korean says the Predator handshake got me rock hard. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Paulie the Latino slant saying, "What's up, guys? How you doing tonight, Paulie?" Yeah, so everyone, like I said, we're here to talk about a whole horse of things tonight. I want to go ahead and start off this show with a rant about the Super Bowl. So, does anyone want to talk about the Super Bowl here for a second?
Sure.
Well, let's get into it. Super Bowl was last Sunday. There's a couple things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the actual sports angle to this whole story, and I also want to talk about some of the more conspiratorial things of this whole story too. So let's get into the football part. Yeah. So for those of you who can still hear, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the game itself. Yeah, so Taylor Swift won the Super Bowl last Sunday night. She defeated the San Francisco 49ers, who, if you look, I'll be honest with yourself, if you look at that game, San Francisco should have won that game, but then again, you saw the same thing about 4 years ago when they played Kansas City and lost again. So that's probably 2 Super Bowls that Kansas City has lost just by their own, I guess, incompetence. I think they lost like 3 in a row now. I gotta be honest with you, the game, even though it was close, it wasn't really that good of a game. Like, am I the only one who just wasn't really that impressed by the overall quality of the game? I felt like it was very sloppy. There was a lot of mistakes, and there wasn't really like any moments per se in the game that I think are going to be all-time moments outside of literally like the final touchdown like of the game. It felt like it was a big step down from years past. Am I being a little off on that one? I know, Rob, you watched the game, so what was kind of your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I probably have a little bit more of a nuanced take on it, just because I try to look at the whole game. You know, I mean, San Francisco had a great pass rush. They kept Kansas City in check for most of the game. It's really disappointing that, like, I don't know, because there were a lot of fumbles and turnovers. You're right. The play was incredibly sloppy for 2 teams vying for literally the Super Bowl, the Lombardi Trophy. So, and then San Francisco, the fumble and the punt return. That was like me wanting to pull my hair out, because at that point I was like, they're the better team. They should win. They didn't give the ball to Christian McCaffrey enough, even though he fumbled on the first drive. You know, each team was really struggling on offense in the second half after they kind of went back and forth. But yeah, it was kind of a lackluster game. Yeah, I was into it just because I love the NFL. I love the Super Bowl just as a sporting event. But I felt like it left a lot to be desired in general. But you know, I just like a competitive game. If the offense and defense are relatively well balanced, you know, fans today generally don't like that. Especially we're coming off the shootout between Philadelphia and Kansas City last year, where it was like the team that has the ball last is going to win, kind of thing. So. Yeah, it was sort of lackluster. It kind of reminded me of the Patriots-Rams Super Bowl from a couple years ago, where it was like, I don't know if you remember that. It was like 17-10 or something, or
no, it was
7, or
I think it was like 13-3.
Okay, yeah, it was something like that, and everyone complained. And granted, it was a very defensive game.
I was in LA during that Super Bowl, and the crowd at the room was just dead. Like, I think it was like 3-3 for like a big portion of the game until the Patriots finally scored. So it's like it was still in that position where the Rams could very easily have won that Super Bowl, but it was like the game was so boring, no one in LA cared. Like that's one thing I remember. That's probably the worst Super Bowl I've ever sat through ever. A couple things here, Hopper. You're jumping ahead of me here. We're gonna cover that one on the second half of this whole story here. But as far as like I said, the game itself, I kind of compare this to the last Super Bowl from 20 years ago, and that was the Patriots and the Panthers. If you remember that game going all the way back, that was Jake Delhomme's team going up against Tom Brady after, I think it was his second Super Bowl at that time, and that was, I think, the part where I started to hate Tom Brady. When it comes to like Patrick Mahomes, like, I don't really have that hatred for Patrick Mahomes. I'm just very, very indifferent towards him, and that probably has a lot to do with the fact that being a football fan, I'm just really kind of detached to what the NFL has become too. So I don't even have like the energy to even muster any kind of a real dislike for him at this point. But like I said, this is his third Super Bowl now. Obviously, people are desperately trying to say that he's already better than Brady with 3 Super Bowls at this point in his career, as if somehow Tom Brady didn't also win 3 Super Bowls at this point in his career as well. And I mean, like, look, the guy's 2-0 against Mahomes, literally beat him in the Super Bowl. It's like he's literally won half the rings that Tom Brady has. Like, calm down with the whole replacement of Tom Brady thing. It's absolutely stupid at this whole point. But the Chiefs seem to be the new dynasty now. Everyone in the entire league is behind them. They have Taylor Swift behind them too. What the heck is that? Hold on, let me pull this up here. Wait, what does it say
Did
now?
not know she was Canadian.
Oh, bruh. Boo. Boo. Where's my boo? Do I have a boo button on here? Is there something I can...
Yeah, that's like a boomer meme you'd find on Facebook, but
yeah. I need a better boo. I need a better boo. I'll figure that out in post. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of just the way that I felt about it. No, the Chiefs are the new dynasty now. People are talking about them trying to be the first team to three-peat next year. Look, I'm just not emotionally attached to the Chiefs. Even before the whole Taylor Swift thing, didn't really care much for them. As someone who's born and raised in San Diego, there was literally nobody for me to root for here. I had to either root for the city of San Francisco, a city that I despise, and a city that absolutely smashed the Chargers in 1995 in their only Super Bowl appearance, and of course the Kansas City Chiefs. So I mean, I was in a no-win situation there as far as that whole thing goes. So Orange Hat, I'm pretty sure you're not the big football fan, but do you have any comments at least about the game portion of this before we move on to the more conspiratorial portion of this?
No.
Great.
I didn't watch the game.
I'll just say this real quick. Kyle Shanahan is now 0-3 in Super Bowls. And to be fair, his father ran into the same issue, trying to get John Elway his first Super Bowl title. So they're saying like he can't win the big one and all this shit. It's like he'll be fine. San Francisco, really, they should have won this game. They were the better team. They just didn't execute when they needed to, and they let Kansas City hang around. So that's how it goes.
That's all how it goes. So I mean, it is what it is. Vegas. So like I said, that's just how we feel about the game. If you cared about any of this, if you cared about the Swift stuff, if you care about the Chiefs, then I guess you care. But for me, it's like, hey, pitchers and catchers are checking in here in the next couple of days here, so I can go back to a sport that I actually care about. Now, with the actual game portion of this out of the way, let's talk about the real fun stuff about this Super Bowl, and it is the conspiracy aspect of it, because there was a lot of conspiracy theories running amok here about this year's Super Bowl, and I gotta be honest with you, when you start piecing all of these things together, it doesn't really sound that much like a conspiracy theory. Now, last night, if you guys didn't check us out, last night on the Bible Lens podcast, me and Rob did a show basically talking about the idea of the elite celebrities selling their souls for the devil for fame and money, right? And we talked about going through the course of this whole thing. If you read what the Bible preaches, if you read what a lot of these people have said with their own words, and people who are close to them have said, it doesn't really sound that much like a conspiracy theory. Now, of course, in the context of what we're talking about last night, we're talking about kind of the foundation of this whole idea. So when you fast forward in the modern times, there's a lot of very, very suspect behavior that we've covered here on this stream over the last few weeks, and it all seemed like it came to a head during last Sunday's Super Bowl here. So let's show you just a few things that people picked up on. You're gonna start seeing a picture being formed here. This was apparently after the Chiefs won the game. Machine Gun Kelly is in here with a picture with Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, and Megan Fox. A lot to take in with this whole picture. First of all, obviously with Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, these are the two that have been going around promoting witchcraft and vampirism and all this other stuff over the last several months. We've covered Megan Fox and the things she's done with her kids and things that she's promoted and threatened people with. But with this picture here, a lot of people are noticing that Megan Fox looks like an absolute ghoul, which she does. So I'm just throwing that out there too. Then, of course, our Machine Gun Kelly got into an altercation with Sean Strickland of the UFC. Now, we've covered Sean Strickland here over the last few weeks as well. And apparently Sean Strickland straight up called him a weirdo and it looked like a queer to his face at a Jake Paul fight a couple of days before the Super Bowl. So, like I said, Sean Strickland is quite literally a real-life GTA character. Like, his whole week is that on Wednesday, he had a rally with Donald Trump in Las Vegas. Then later that day, he fought, was it a Sneeko Joe, the YouTuber who's super popular, literally boxed him, beat the ever living crap out of him. Then he went to this event, got into an altercation with Machine Gun Kelly, and then turned around and called out Jake Paul. It's like, this dude's a literal psychopath. He's a literal GTA character come to life. I think he might be my favorite fighter of all time at this point. I think he's peeking up on Chael Sonnen territory for me right now with him. But obviously the witch class was here last night, because I mean, we talked about Taylor Swift's connections to witchcraft. Obviously you have Megan Fox here, but that's not the only connection of people who was there at this show last night. You also had, of course, Lady Gaga, Jay-Z, and Beyonce, who have all been tied into the occult over the last several years. I mean, we've talked about Lady Gaga enough. Jay-Z, we just covered his whole thing with the Book of Clarence and the whole 5% Nation of Islam angle not too long ago. Beyonce, I don't think there's anything more to say of her and her.
I'm sorry, but Lady Gaga just looks like, I sold my soul for this. Like, she's able to be there.
It's like, I'm going to swim in the lake of fire just so I can get front row seats to the Chiefs and the 49ers. It's like, that's literally what she's saying right now. But that's not the only one who was there. Gwen Stefani was also there, and Post Malone were also at this event. Now, Gwen Stefani, as we've shown you on this podcast, has pictures on the internet with a certain individual who referred to as a satanic witch, who has been at a lot of quote-unquote spirit cooking type events and things of that nature. If you look at Gwen Stefani's solo act, there's a lot of references to Freemasonry within her act as well. So people have obviously made the illusion that she's a member of the Freemasons based on that. Then, of course, you had the halftime show with Usher, which some people said wasn't a lot of outright occultism on there, but I will bring this up because I think it's very interesting to bring this up here real quick. Usher also was filmed with our favorite witch lady here, so there's pictures of them together. So it's like everything's starting to swoon together here. And then, of course, the one that everyone on the internet caught attention of last week, last Sunday, was this Ice Spice, who I'm still trying to figure out why Ice Spice is a thing. It just feels like that sometimes, like, some of these people are just memes at this point. But she was in the booth with Taylor Swift during this whole event, and people noticed that, hey, she's wearing an inverted cross. She has Balenciaga on her arm, and she's sitting over here doing Satan hand gestures during the show and whatnot. So people was like, they're really laying it on thick of who exactly these people are aligned with here. Now, some of you guys may think that this is all for show. Some of you guys may think that this is all one big work, as we like to say in the pro wrestling community. But like I said, as we talked about last night, probably a little bit more to it than that. And then our good buddy Ben Hameen from Hameen Media Group, who covers obviously a lot of like pro wrestling stuff, and he also has a show called Conspiracy Horseman here too. He made note of a few interesting things regarding what happened at the Super Bowl here. Now, if you're more inclined, like a good buddy Hooper here, who has a little bit more in keen with what's going on with a lot of these occultists in Hollywood right now, you may have noticed some things that even I didn't notice until I pulled this scene out from Monday's show. But listen to Ben explain to you, some of you uninformed people, about what exactly happened during the Super Bowl last Sunday night.
There she is last night, with an inverted cross on and doing two Sweet Me Briz hand signals and spirit magic of surrounding yourself in your own little vortex of however far out your aura goes, I guess is what they believe in what I've studied on sex magic and dark magic. And you can see the exact same thing, LeBron James last maybe 2 or 3 years ago, could be even further back, but doing the same ritual stuff, surrounding himself with incantation and whatnot. And it started out as, Alex Jones is crazy in 2000, and now we have it mainstream in front of your children in the Super Bowl, and ritualistic paganism magic. And who is the priest class, and who did they show there last night? Reba got a new show coming out, plus she's on your other indoctrinated whatever America's Got Talent type shows where they press a buzzer on somebody singing karaoke who's got looking for their Andy Warhol 15 minutes of fame. I mean, that's where we're at with it. And then you can go right down the line. Gwen Stefani's another one. Blake Shelton, I think, is the dude she sang with. And during their whole performance, he's wearing black, she's wearing black and white, and in the back is Masonic checkerboard. People are like, oh, that could be for NASCAR. Get the fuck out of here. If you're that ignorant, then you are part of the 85 who don't got a clue. You're one of the plebs right out of Orwell. So they're just force feeding you, the as above, so below. And then you want the work, they said it's, the numerology, and shout out to Strangler Steve, who's our expert numerologist here at HMG and is always looking for specific timestamps or things on a rolling ticker that reinforce what you're seeing is, this is some work and ritualistic magic for whatever ritual they're trying to do, humiliation, death, sacrifice, sexual wise. But yeah, even last night they're so in your face with it. You got Kelsey doing this shit absolutely at the end. You have Mahomes in the fourth quarter doing this as well. Whatever this, and if you don't know what this is, obviously you should. You're a Hami Media subscriber. It's 6666 3 6s. And then as above, so below, black and white. Where are we in the middle? The number 333. How many yards did he have exactly last night when I Googled it for my FanDuel bet? 333 yards. What's the address of the arena? 333. They even put it over, so it just doesn't stop when these things just don't happen by happenstance. Those that are selected in the priest class are told to do this job, especially when there's billions and billions of dollars on the line. And there was they rib about the script because they don't want to go back to whatever it was in 1982 or 85 when wrestling really got exposed as phony, right? And everyone's calling it fake because football's doing the same thing. All football is a bigger sponsored wrestling now that is trying to kayfabe it, but they're putting all this Illuminati symbolism. So I didn't see a ton.
Yeah, so he was pretty much hammering down and bringing together everything that we've been talking about here. I actually did look into it because I didn't even know this at the time, but you look at the stat and it literally says Patrick Mahomes 333 yards passing last night. You look at the address of the Allegiant Stadium arena, then 3333. That's why he had the triple threes or the quadruple threes on there. And then somebody also pointed out that what is the Allegiant Stadium, the actual stadium, it looks like a giant black rock. It looks like, oh, black rock, black stone. And it's like I keep putting all these things together and you want to pass it off. It's like, oh, this has got to be some kind of bigger conspiracy theory. But at some point, you're gonna have to figure out that these people aren't playing around, at least from their perspective, that they're not playing around with these things here. So Rob, like I said, this is kind of an extension of what we talked about here last night. So based on everything that we pieced together there, what is kind of your thoughts on what was Sunday night Super Bowl Illuminati priest class as they call it now, or whether this is something else? What was kind of your take on everything there?
Yeah, I mean, I come away from it kind of being like, I don't know, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, there's a lot of things there that are sort of suspicious or at least raises an eyebrow because it's like, what possible, I mean, other than coincidence, and you talked about that, one is a pattern or whatever. Yeah,
one is a coincidence, twice is a pattern, and 3 times is an agenda. Yeah.
And I look, when it comes to conspiracy stuff, I generally ignore numerology stuff. I mean, there's a movie Jim Carrey was in called The Number 23. And what that movie taught me was you can make yourself fucking crazy just by, I see these numbers everywhere, dude. And it's like, okay, let's focus on the other stuff because that's more for me concrete. And that is the Ice Spice stuff. I mean, Patrick Mahomes throwing for 333 yards. That I remember the stat line. That's accurate. You know what I mean? So stuff like that, where it's like, yeah, it definitely gives credence to the idea that there's something else going on here, even if it's whatever, ritualistic, performative, even if it's not literally, whatever, witchcraft, devil worshiping. But it's like, why are they doing it? What is that? Again, that's where I'm coming from. It's coming from okay, I'm looking for a logical answer. and I'm not sure there is one.
Well, like I said, and I think I even covered this in the what was the one we did a couple weeks ago? Oh, 5% Nation of Islam origins. And what you see here is that when you go as far back as like the Book of Genesis, you'll start seeing like these patterns here. And there, whenever you start digging up like a lot of these like occult ties, a lot of these Satanism ties, there's the same theme and the same lies that just circle around over and over again. So you start seeing it a numerous amount of times. So you have to think to yourself, is it all just one big coincidence, or is there something like more to it here? We talked about like the number 33 when I talked about the supreme mathematics of the 5% Nation. Like obviously numerology has a very big a play within that. There's a very big play in numerology and witchcraft, and you think to yourself, okay, why is it all about sixes? Why is it all about three? Well, you go all the way back. How old was Jesus when he died on the cross? What was his age then? What year did it happen? 33 AD. So it's like clearly the people who know about this stuff, they're like, it's not a coincidence to them. Like these numbers and these symbols and these things actually mean something to them. I think where the disconnect is that when you start piecing this together and we start being like, you know what, I think there's something more here than it just being entertainment or it just being art. The disconnect, and we talked about this last night, the disconnect people have is that if we accept what they're doing is legitimate, and I think Stephen Richards, who Hopper brought up a little bit earlier here too, made up a great point. It's that it's not what you believe, it's what they believe. And if they believe that this actually has importance to them, then maybe you should start paying attention to exactly what they're doing, because like I said, these are the ones that are putting all this stuff in your face in the movies, in television shows, in music. Like this is essentially the elite of you know, their music sector, whether it's like film, television, and whatnot. So something is going on here, and I think the disconnect here is that people have a hard time accepting that, yeah, maybe there is something nefarious going on, or maybe the people involved are knowing that they're doing something more nefarious, and it's hard for people to just kind of accept that rather than just think that, oh well, it's just like I said, it's just a coincidence. It's like I don't think any of this stuff is coincidence. Having all those people who have all been in circles that we've talked about here on this show in the course of 86 episodes being tied to witchcraft, Satanism, occultism, we've shown all the evidence of it here. I don't think any of that is a coincidence. Orange Chat, let me just jump over to you here real quick. Do you think that we're all going crazy here, or you think that there's more than meets the eye? What's kind of your perspective on this?
From a religious standpoint, I do not have as much know-how as you guys. However, when it does come to the other stuff I heard about the Super Bowl, not just the religious bullshit from Taylor Swift, there was other things that are adding up at the Super Bowl, such as what came before the national anthem during the Super Bowl. But that is separate from this topic. All I can say is that the more that people continue to watch the Super Bowl, the worse it's going to get, because they are providing the ratings, they are providing the audience. Views, the audience. They are giving money, or they are the ones that are making the money for the people or the NFL. As much as we have problems with it, and this is basically what Spencer has said, if you are, or if you have a huge problem with it, stop watching it. I won't watch it. I refuse to watch it because I already know what it's all about. I already knew what it was all about years ago when they started pushing this shit. Not just the satanic bit of it, but the political angle. This false anthem that they played before the national anthem. It's all part of the destruction of our nation. American football is no longer America's favorite pastime, or I think that's baseball is what they called that, but it's no longer America's game. It's America, or it's going to eventually lead to America's downfall, because all these gullible little fucks out there who mindlessly tune into it. I'm sorry, I'm not holding back right now. You guys may have watched it, and that's your choice, but to be completely blunt about it, you're helping them contribute to the downfall of our society.
You hear that, Rob?
Okay, Star Wars. Sorry, but it's like it's the same fucking thing, dude. Look at yourself before you cast aspersions on others.
No, it's he who has not sinned throws the first. That's you.
Oh, I'm bad at fucking scripture.
I never said I never sinned.
Well, no, yeah, fair enough. But look, here's what I say. Fair enough, you do have a point, because look, when you look at this Super Bowl, it was, I believe, the highest rated Super Bowl of all time. They had like 123 million viewers. I'm pretty sure that Taylor Swift fans definitely contribute to that considerably. So obviously a lot of people are watching this, and this is the one thing that I kind of like let people like think about too. It's like, well, why do you think that all these things happened in an event like the Super Bowl? Well, if you know that essentially this event is going to be the most watched event in the entire country, I won't say the world, because then you have to throw in like soccer and whatnot, and like we're not going to do that. But if we're talking about at least here in this country, the United States of America, if you know that you're going to have the most eyeballs in the entire country watching this event, which means that essentially you're going to have your biggest opportunity to influence people and to essentially, you know, sneak things in there that will probably just go right over somebody's head because they're not knowledgeable enough to know exactly what they're seeing, what actually the meaning of this stuff is. It's like you have kind of your built-in powder keg here, and then if people, like I said, aren't smart enough to it, if they just sit there and kind of accept it for like what it is, then like everything's going to go over your head. You're not going to believe it. Like I said, I don't think that it's a coincidence, the stuff that's going on here, because we've seen it too many times. We've called it out too many times. I can't look. I mentioned this last night. It's like once you know, you can't know. Like once you know what these things mean, once you know what these things represent, you can't sit there and pretend like all of a sudden that it doesn't like mean anything to you, or that it has no meaning. It means something to somebody, and you should be asking the question: why is it that, you know, all of these women who are on, you know, television or during these events and award shows are wearing blood red, and how come somebody's sitting there with like a blood red like piano? We're just seeing the same thing over and over and over again. I even made this point here. This is just the course of like the last like few months. It's not even like going on in a year, but once again, you're just seeing red. You're seeing red again. You're seeing red again. What is the symbolism of red? Is it just a really cool color that people love to wear and it has no significant meaning whatsoever? Or is there an actual meaning to someone literally having a woman in red? Like, is there any kind of reference to that we should be thinking about? Maybe we should be questioning here. Like I said, I don't think that any of this stuff is a coincidence to me. Like I said, we've gone too deep into this to be this whole naive, like, oh, it's just art, bro. And like I said, based on what we talked about here tonight, what we talked about in the course of this show, I mean, last night, I should say, throughout the course of this show, I just have a hard time believing that. Rick, what's your take on Taylor Swift winning the Super Bowl and then everyone worshiping the devil?
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it?
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, worshiping Taylor Swift is worshiping the devil.
Well, like I said,
and I just want to say, like, you can listen, you can think the celebrities are fucking morons you have no ties to or connection to, and just frankly enjoy the game of football. Now, I hate college football because it's a bunch of fucking kids playing a man's game, and it's like, oh, hey, look at the no defense. Yeah, I love that. So, and I know the NFL is slowly getting there too, where it's like the defense doesn't matter. So like I am trying to hold on to something I've loved since I was a little kid, which is probably true for a lot of people with different things, but I don't necessarily think that I'm complicit in anything just because I like the NFL and it's highly corporatized and highly commercialized. You know what I mean? And I fucking hate Taylor Swift. I have been annoyed by her inclusion in the NFL all season long because you guys have heard it. So yeah, no, this shit is weird. It's creepy. I don't like it, but I have nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? You know, at the end of the day, I just don't accept that. But yeah, you know, do as you want to do. You know what I mean? If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Hooper here says that's all planned to come together to indoctrinate even more new fans to follow through Swift, get more revenue, push out but they believe in plain sight. I agree with that. Spencer brings up a point here. I don't think he understands the point he just made because Rob, I'm not sure if we talked about this last night, either on air or off the air, but I did bring this up about the Wonder Woman thing. Did I tell you about this? Or did we talk about this?
Yeah.
So just in case you guys didn't watch last night or whatnot, I rewatched the first Wonder Woman movie, the one that came out in 2017, and obviously, for those who know, the whole lore of Wonder Woman in DC is that a lot of it's based on Greek mythology. And when you really look deep into like Greek mythology, the idea of like Greek gods, and you can go into like Hindu gods and Norse gods as well. But when you look at the whole idea of the Greek gods and what they kind of represent, and we talked about in the book of Genesis how there was a time when Satan and his angels rebelled against God in heaven, and they were cast down to the earth. By the way, to earth, not hell, but how they intermingled with the people and whatnot, right? And that led to obviously the creation of the Nephilim, because the fallen angels mated with human women and created these hybrids that were bloodthirsty and attacked. It's a whole thing. We'll get into that later on. But when you think of the idea of fallen angels and the hatred that they have for humanity, I was rewatching the scene where Ares is talking to Wonder Woman, and you're literally seeing symbolism of Ares falling from the sky, symbolism of fallen angels falling out of heaven, and the way that he's talking about humanity, how they polluted everything, and just the hatred that he has for humanity. It's almost as if you close your eyes, you can literally hear a fallen angel talking about God's creation. Like quite literally, like you can hear that if you follow that line way. And we have to think to ourselves, like with comic books, it's like all of these things are based on something, right? It wasn't just, oh, some guy created this all in his head. It's like everything is based on something. This whole idea of, like, let's say the Greek gods or even vampires. We talk about like vampires and werewolves as like kind of these mythical creatures. Well, when we parlay that into obviously these creatures, these fallen angels that could have been viewed as gods among men during the time period, intermingling with man, intermingling with creature, and creating these horrific looking things, and people have based a lot of our culture on these creatures, on this mythology for thousands of years. Is it too much of a stretch to believe that some of these things were actually based on a little bit of truth? That actually even things like such as comic books are based on things that pre-existed for thousands of years, and that these things had origins that goes all the way back to creation. Is it too much of a stretch to go to think about these things, or am I thinking a little bit too much into this? What do you think?
Well, if you think about it, religion took its cues from previous religions, or the Catholic religion took its cues from previous religions, such as the Greek religion. Before it was myth, it was a religion.
Paganism.
You mean Greek Orthodoxy? I'm just joking, by the way.
Or it was a polytheistic religion, yes. But
you mean
you
like
also
the gods
look at
and
a lot of
the
if you look at all of the certain things in the Bible, you could see a lot of parallels between a religion that took place thousands of years before the Catholic religion ever came about and Catholic religion itself.
Well, I mean, if you want to really get into it, I have previous episodes talking about the history of Catholicism, where people think that the Bible started with Catholicism. It really didn't. But like I said, that's now we're going completely off the reservation here. We don't want to turn this into a Bible lens episode like Josh is
your question, though.
Yes, no.
But to answer your question a little bit more directly, you may be looking into it a little too deeply in the terms of the Wonder Woman bit, because Spencer makes a good point. If you want to see symbolism in everything, you're going to see symbolism in everything. Doesn't mean it's there. Or, if I may do a small little paraphrase, it doesn't mean it's intended.
All I would say is, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, which is not actually what Sigmund Freud said that was attributed to him, but sometimes what we see is really what they're aiming for. I don't know if Wonder Woman was giving too much thought into a connection between Ares and fallen angels. And curiously enough, kind of get a little sidetracked here. Yesterday, when I went to my own Bible study, they did discuss an interesting idea about the Nephilim, or whatever they were, Nephilim, whatever they're called, and it gave an interesting interpretation, different from the usual idea. But I'll share that with you in time.
Yeah, we can definitely get into it, and it's definitely a topic that we'll cover here, moving on here. But like I said, I don't know. We start piecing everything together. You come to your own conclusions. I mean, like I said, everything sounds crazy like Alex Jones, but then people forget that Alex Jones is actually right about a lot of things too. So, like I said, for some people they'll see it, some people they just won't see it, and I guess we'll figure out who's right and wrong at the end of the day. So, outside of that, I guess we can move on to our next story here, and this one is I know the setup of this one is going to be difficult for some of you guys here, but we're going to have to talk about women's college basketball here for a second, so just hold on with me here. Caitlin Clark, do you guys know who Caitlin Clark is? Probably not, because you guys don't know who college basketball is, but
I have no idea.
Caitlin Clark is the star basketball player of Iowa. Iowa University.
I'm sorry, I know this.
Yeah, I mean, apparently I was just, but no. So she's star player of Iowa University. She's arguably the best basketball player in college basketball right now. I wouldn't go as far to say all of women's college basketball because, let's be honest, I don't know enough basketball to say that that's fake. But I think she is the top player in the NCAA right now. And for whatever reason, she's getting a lot of hatred and a lot of backlash, and it seems to stem with the point that a lot of players are very jealous of her because, one, she's white, and two, she's not gay. And because of that, people have been spreading a lot of hatred, a lot of propaganda about her. This kind of started last year. I think somebody had brought it up in our chat earlier. Top Dog actually brought it up earlier. He was saying that, last year she was in the Final Four game against, I want to say it was South Carolina. And she did the whole John Cena, you can't see me thing after they had won that game. South Carolina's coach, Don Stanley, pretty much like slammed Iowa, saying that they were only given that much coverage because, she's white, alluding that race was the factor that they were getting so much coverage. Now, they lost the NCAA championship last year, lost it to Angel Reese, and obviously we talked about Angel Reese in the past here too, about how she lost a number of games because her grades weren't very good, but that's kind of like the rivalry that's going on there. Cheryl Swoops, who is a basketball legend for women's basketball, came out and did an interview. I believe it was with Gilbert Arenas, if I'm not mistaken. I do believe it was Gilbert Arenas. And she went out and basically just said a whole bunch of like falsehoods about Caitlin Clark, because she didn't want to admit that the best player in women's college basketball right now is like a white Catholic girl from Iowa. So here's the video here. And like I said, you'll see in the captions that pretty much everything that she says about this girl is wrong. But let's go ahead and start here for a second.
I say this. Yes, records are made and set to be broken. But if you're going to break a record, this isn't just for Caitlin, but you asked me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that player set it. Okay. Right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year, and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly
which is false. This is her fourth year. She's only played 4 years. As a matter of fact, she's actually played less games than the girl who currently holds the record. What's her name? Kelsey, who plays for the Las Vegas Aces right now. She plays like 11 less games than she did when she actually broke the record, and she's on pace of breaking it right now. So that's completely false, but I'll go ahead and continue.
A broken record. I don't know.
You think exactly how I
don't think so, but yeah, that'll go in the record books as Caitlin Clark is the all-time, whatever it is. I don't even know what the number is, but that's the way it'll be. So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them, but you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old. Mm-hmm. Like, you should be killing them.
Yeah.
She's 22, as the video says, so that was also a lie.
Because you've been doing it a lot longer than they have.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark right now probably takes about 40 shots a game.
And she takes less than 20. So, and this went on, and she got absolutely like roasted for this, like rightfully so here. But I think a clip that I want to show here is from Jason Wicklot's show, and he pretty much puts it into a much greater perspective here, because like I said, this has been going on for well over a year, and there's definitely a political element to it within women's college basketball, because as we all know, there's been a big push for what is it, the WNBA over the last couple of years, trying to make it seem like the WNBA is essentially on par with the NBA as far as competition and talent and whatnot. ESPN has gone very, very heavily into this. So there is a political element for this girl who presumably is going to be the number one pick in the WNBA draft here in a few weeks. But we'll talk, what's his name? We'll let Whitlock talk about this here. Let me actually rewind this back. I thought this was pulled back here for a second, but apparently it wasn't. All right, here we go.
About it here on this show. She's going to face a level of racism from black players, and she's going to face a level of hostility from lesbian players because she's not on team LGBTQ. She's a Catholic. She's got some boyfriend. She's going to walk into a extremely hostile environment. And so when it was Tiger Woods walking into a hostile environment of the PGA Tour, we talked about it, we covered it, we covered it sympathetically, we criticized the people that were against Tiger Woods. as it relates to Caitlin Clark, who could come and make the WNBA far more relevant. I'm not going to say she's going to make them relevant, but she'll make them more relevant. She's going to face a level of hostility that's unprecedented. I mean, because, again, people think men are bad. A group of women? You just sat and listened to Cheryl Swoops just stack lie on top of misinformation. And a group of black people basically mostly just nodded their heads as if she knew what she was talking about, because Gilbert Arenas knows virtually nothing. And so I think this is why this thing is fascinating, because she's going to walk into hostile territory. And there's a reason why Iowa's roster, why she's playing at Iowa. Maybe she's from that area. I think maybe she grew up there. Yeah. But they got a predominantly white roster, because you put an Angel Reese on that team and you got headaches and problems. You're multiplying your Cheryl Swopeses of the world that are sitting there just trying to hate on them and trying to prove that, they're not as good as all the hype.
Yeah, so that's kind of the context of this whole situation now. So like I said, she tried to break the all-time scoring record on, I want to say it was Sunday or Saturday, one of those 2 days. I think she fell about 9 points shy, so I believe her next game is going to be in a couple of days, where, I mean, she is going to break the record at that point. But like I said, people are just looking for any kind of way to discredit her right now, because she doesn't fit the mold of what they're looking for a typical WNBA audience. And it's no surprise to anybody that the majority of the WNBA is lesbian, and that's a big factor in the women's basketball. There's been multiple stories over the last couple of years about players being, I guess, bullied by a lot of the locker room players because they're not gay, and there was also allegations of essentially coaches going after female players who get pregnant during the season, and essentially there was allegations of making them harassing them, making them feel uncomfortable, shaming them for getting pregnant, stuff like that. And this is kind of the world that Clayton Clark is going to be brought into here in just the next few weeks. So Rob, I'll start this one off with you. What's kind of your take on the whole Caitlin Clark situation, seeing that you know a little bit more about her than you were letting on here, but what's kind of your take of what's going on with her?
Yeah, I was really hoping that she would fail and people would stop watching the women's Final Four last year. But, it did well in terms of viewers, and people like the story. She's apparently a really good 3-point shooter. Like, she was just like knocking them down, like with defense in her face. Like, she did a great job last year, and she's been a player in the spotlight because, frankly, let's face it, women's basketball needs stars. It needs people that people actually want to watch. And the WNBA should not be acting in any manner as if they don't need her. They absolutely do need her. So alienating potentially your biggest star or somebody that has a chance to grow the sport. I can't believe I'm fucking saying this, by the way. Please, why do you make me defend women's basketball players? All I want to do is make fun of them. All I want to do is post that Family Guy scene where it's like, so-and-so leads the scoring with 4. It's 13-9 in the third quarter. The one fan in the stands. So please, but yeah, this is completely ridiculous. It's like, okay, you don't have, you are not in the territory to dismiss somebody that can potentially grow your game. I mean, I saw some videos today even where they asked people, hey, should we lower the net to 9 feet so that we can actually have more consistent dunking, which in the NBA is what got people excited. The alley-oops, the dunks, the big plays at the rim. Occasionally you get a block, when someone plays defense, but those are the things that I feel like would help people to gravitate towards the WNBA, and all they're doing is alienating potentially, a great talent for the game. So as much as I hate the WNBA and women's basketball in general, Caitlin Clark doesn't deserve this. And I hope she breaks the record.
Cody Rhodes, I hate you so much. Orange Hat, what's your take here? Like I said, she looks like a marketable figure for this game, who could be, like I said, a big star for women's basketball for the next 10 years. And she's already coming in here being hated and despised by the overwhelming majority of the people here, which all like, do you guys not understand marketing? Like, you guys have literally been complaining for the last several years that you don't get paid as much as the NBA. You don't get as much attention as the NBA. Here's a generational talent here that's coming into the league, and you're upset because she's white and she's not a lesbian. It's like, what? She's Catholic, and that's why you guys are upset. Like, what's going on here? What's your take, Orange Hat?
Basically, if the NBA wants to self-destruct further and decline themselves further than they already have due to other stupidities, let them. Fuck them. But the fact that they actually have this one talent that just happens to be all the wrong demographics shows you just how or why the NBA needs to fail. Because I'm sorry, if they want or they don't like this person simply because of her identity and whatnot, and if she is aware of all of this, then perhaps she needs to pull a fucking Gina Carano and actually start maybe looking into lawsuits. It's like, you guys are all judging me on my sexual orientation, my religious freedoms and whatnot, and what? You're not going to allow me to be the face of the NBA or the WNBA. What? Because I don't like to use a plastic dick on other women? I'm sorry. That is absolutely ridiculous. This woman or her religion, her sexuality should have nothing to do with what she does on the court. That's all there is to it. And if the NBA or WNBA wants to drive that nail into their coffin, what's her name? Caitlin Clark. I am so sorry that you got into the WNBA in the time of its drastic degeneration and its decline, because you, with your skill, deserve to be in a business and in a sports venue that would appreciate your talents and not look at you for your superficial attributes.
Brandon actually just sent me a DM regarding this, and he actually brings up a good point, but I'm going to hold off here for a second. Rick, I want your thoughts on what's going on here. What's your take on the whole Caitlin Clark situation?
Well, first I would advise her when she enters the draft, she should declare herself as a black lesbian. She should identify as a black lesbian, and then maybe they'll be happy. I would just say to Caitlin, just keep going. If this is what you want to do, if you want to actually pursue a career in the NBA, which I was not aware was a thing, but if you want to pursue a career in the NBA and become their version of, Michael Jordan,
WNBA.
Whatever, as if I knew the difference.
Yes, people watch one, people do not watch the other. That's the difference.
Well, I mean, I got confused ever since Dennis Rodman came in and was wearing all those dresses. So after a while, I just got all muddled up. Point being, if her teammates in the WNBA, they need to rise above their ideas that, oh, you're not black, oh, you're not a lesbian, you're not a part of our team. They need to rise above that and say, hey, this is a woman who's going to not only get us more recognition, she could be the face of this for not just franchise, but the face of this whole sport. And we should embrace her and try to make her, be that face. If this is going to get us publicity, this is going to get us equal parity, equal pay. So maybe she will be making the millions and millions of dollars. I don't have much of an interest. I'm fascinated to go to one of these WNBA games because apparently I could get those suites for $20. Gabe was very excited at that prospect.
Mm-hmm.
I just
suite at the Staples Center, $20, and people still won't go.
Yeah, no. Well, Gabe will. Gabe will definitely will. Just go ahead and enter the draft. May the bet or the team that gets her really just use her in the best way, but just plunge ahead and don't worry about the haters. Don't worry about the haters. It's your job. You do the best job. And to all these fans and to Miss Swoops or whatever her name is, really, you're trying to destroy the one good thing that could come your way. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because she doesn't fit your ideals. Hey, well, change your ideals.
So Brandon pointed this out here too, and this could possibly be part of it too, which is sad for the WNBA because the direction that they could possibly be going here would unironically actually get more people to actually watch the sport, but obviously it would upset the guard that's already in control here. That WNBA. Well, I guess you could say WNBA, but college has 3 female college prospects who I believe are all about top 5 and top 10 picks right now, who are all viewed as kind of the next guard of women's college basketball here, right? And the problem is that they're all white and they're all straight, and this is probably an angle here that we're not considering here. So this is Caitlin Clark, just in case you didn't know who Caitlin Clark is. She's rumored to be the #1 overall pick in the draft. Here you have Cameron Brink, who plays for the University of Stanford. I believe she's either rumor #2 or #3, because I think Angel Reese might actually be #2 right now, but she's definitely a top 3 pick here right now from Stanford. Pretty girl, tall girl. She's like 6'4", by the way, just throwing it out there as well.
Damn.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then the other one here is Haley Van Lilith, who plays for LSU right now. Like I said, these are all of these women are in the top 10 prospects right now in the WNBA, so they're going to be in top positions here in the next couple of months. So what you're seeing here is that you're seeing a changing of the guard from what the WNBA is now, which is, like I said, the reason why there's so much heat, because a lot of them women are black and a lot of them are lesbian. And all of a sudden, here you have 3 stars who can come into the WNBA tomorrow and draw interest almost immediately from people, I don't know, men who probably wouldn't otherwise watch WNBA, be like, oh, wait, that woman's playing, maybe I'll watch a couple of her games, right? And do you think that part of this is them feeling threatened, that all of a sudden you have these pretty white girls coming into the league that are drawing the attention away from them, and obviously maybe drawing I don't want to say the male gaze, that's kind of the hacky thing to do here, but at least drawing an audience that's not the traditional WNBA audience, which in all honesty, good, because no one's really watching this to begin with. So maybe if you actually had some attractive women playing basketball, you can actually find some people who want to watch this thing during the summer. It's like, I don't know, like, you guys could complain for literally 24 years that you can't get anyone to take the WNBA seriously, and now you actually have basketball players who are actually pretty good. I mean, Caitlin Clark is a very, very good player. You see some of her highlights. She's a damn fine player, and yet you guys are already trying to ruin the whole situation before they even get their foot in the door. It's like, what is going on here? So,
and I hate to say this again because it proves that I know more about the WNBA and its players than I lead on. But look, Diana, I know who Diana Taurasi is. If you knew her run at Connecticut, you know, like she had an incredible list of accomplishments as a college player, and she was pretty good in the pros too. And then Sue Bird, but I think she's gay. I think she's an openly gay woman.
Both of them are gay, actually.
And I lived in the Pacific Northwest for years, so the Storm, I guess, got more play than the average franchise would. So, but it's like those are both white women, and they're not really attractive, but like those are the 2 biggest stars in your league. And so when you look around the WNBA, not only is the play terrible, but like, frankly, let's just be honest. Most of these women are not attractive. They're not lookers. They're not traditionally feminine. And I'm not even going to say Caitlin Clark is, but she's I guess she's a white straight woman who they feel threatened by. I think it's pretty weird to use these characteristics, these tokenized labels to, judge somebody on. But, I think anytime people are, in danger of losing their position
Clark, make sure to get your Iowa Wave shirt before the
or stature, that can happen. So,
well, I think we know who would pay for those $20 box seats. That would be Roberto Mato.
Please shut your mouth.
Well, apparently, because you follow this, I kept thinking it was the NBA.
Let's say we're in a fantasy land here. If those 3 girls were all on the same team, would you go to at least one WNBA game?
Well, I would, just for the novelty. I went to a female tackle football game, so I'm more than willing to go to a.
Wasn't that the lingerie league or?
No.
No, I know what you're talking. No, no, absolutely. No. I actually know what you're talking about. No, absolutely.
Though I will say that if they had pretty black women, I'm sure there would be an issue either. I think. I mean, who do they want the face to be? Was it Brittany Griner? That's supposed to be the face of the NBA, of the WNBA?
Basically a man, yes.
Yeah. But here's the Family Guy clip that Rob was talking about earlier.
And at the top of the second half, it's 16-9. Easton leads the scoring with 4.
And that's why she commands $7,000 a year. These gals sure do make it look difficult.
But is having this minor skill worth being so unattractive? That's for the fan to decide.
The fan. The fan.
The fan, singular.
I am curious. What is the percentage of male and female fans?
That's hilarious, actually. It's the men who are keeping this fucking league afloat. That's what's so funny about all this social justice nonsense is like it's older men who like, what was it? Because they were just talking about it on this video. They like, fundamental basketball. And so and I'm like, and I guess they get their fix there, but it's like, really? It's men propping up this crappy league?
But like I said, you have a clear-cut marketing problem with this league, and this might be offensive to some people, but this is how business works. Nobody wants to watch ugly lesbians play bad basketball for 2 hours. Like, it's not a draw. Like, no one's gonna watch it. People would rather watch Monday Night Raw than watch the WNBA, and that's sad. You know what's sad?
They would rather watch Argyle than.
I mean, at least it did better than Lisa Frankenstein. So I mean, there's that, right? But all I have to say, all you angry lesbians in the WNBA, this is the future of your league. So cope and sieve, I guess we should say. Orange Hat, I'll give the final word to you. What's your your thoughts on this topic? You're muted, by the way, so no one can hear you.
I really don't have any more thoughts than what I said.
All right. Neil Zoic said, which is worse, the WNBA or AEW? Ooh, I'd rather watch AEW if you force me to watch one of the two now. I mean, especially the current WNBA. Who knows? Maybe this will lead to a change in the way that the WNBA presents itself right now, because they need something. Like, you can't keep pretending like it's the equivalent of the men, because I mean, like I said, no one wants to watch ugly women play
real
bad
quick.
basketball.
Is this idea, now that we have these 3 potential white female straight superstars, is this a sense that these black lesbians think that their space quote unquote is being invaded, and so they can't have the attractive women or attractive white women or attractive straight white women? I don't know, since I barely know the difference between the NBA and the WNBA.
Well, look at it from this perspective. How many times it's not particularly just in basketball, but just any other thing in culture today. Whenever someone pretty, especially if it's like a black, quote unquote, a black space. Whenever white people try to insert themselves into a black space, the immediate threat is that, they're only popular because they're white. They immediately get offended. Remember, we talked about this last year with Djokovic from the Denver Nuggets. Well, he was supposed to win his 3rd straight MVP last year, and all of a sudden Kendrick Perkins and the Funky Bunch just came out and said, well, the only reason why people are voting for him is because he's white. So he lost his 3rd straight MVP because Kendrick Perkins and ESPN said it was a race thing. And guess what happened? He won the NBA championship that same year. So actually, it wasn't because he was white. It's because he's the best player in basketball right now. But they can't accept that because he's white. So we're seeing the same thing being replicated here in the WNBA too. They don't want to admit that these girls who are pretty, who are white, and who are not gay are probably going to be the next big thing in the WNBA for the next 5 to 10 years. They don't want to accept that.
So now you're, instead of the great white hope, you're looking for the great black straight pretty hope to save the NBA. Okay.
That's where we are now. So yeah, good job at WNBA. Then you wonder why your players have to go to Russia to make ends meet, because WNBA players aren't even paid enough to make ends meet in their own league. So a lot of the girls who play in the WNBA have to go play in like a Euro league in the off season. That's the only way that they can make like 6 figures down the year, because otherwise it's like they don't have the justification to get paid as much as they get paid over there. So it's like, yeah, you guys are just dumb.
Yeah, and then they get imprisoned by one of Putin's many goons out there, and we have to trade. We have to ask Uncle Joe to trade them in for the Merchant of Death. So there you go.
Yeah, go see Lord of War, by the way.
Yeah, if I was a crypto billionaire, I start a hot white basketball league to rival the NBA and see how well that goes. So, outside of that, let's move on back to entertainment here. Let's talk about Godzilla minus one director dunking on Hollywood. I did a couple of articles for Bounding that are doing pretty well right now. This is the first one, and when I read the story here, it's absolutely hilarious to me. But essentially, what's going on here is that Godzilla minus one director Takashi Yamazaki, I'm just going to say that that's his name, dunks on Marvel Studios' big budget inefficiency. Now, people are still in disbelief today that the fact that they made a Godzilla movie, not only a Godzilla movie, a highly acclaimed Godzilla movie, people are saying it's probably the best one they've ever seen, for less than $15 million. The original announced budget was only $15 million. And then the director came out here later and said, no, actually we did it for 12. So we did it for even less money than you thought that we did it for. And the effects were great. The visual effects were very, very good. That's why people were like, how could they have possibly only did this for $12 million? They must have cut corners somewhere. Well, it turns out here they didn't. At least listen to him talk here. So let's go down here for a second. Yeah, so he pours salt in the wounds here by sticking to his claim that the film not only cost $12 million to produce, but that the production was able to pull this off without having to cut corners on the luxury for the cast or crew on set for the movie. So in the interview with The Vulture here, he says that one thing that I will say, we had our company do a pretty nice renovation and overhaul of this office floor because we knew that we were going to be working on Godzilla project, and we knew that we were going to be spending significant hours together, so we made it more comfortable and cozy. We spent some of the budget building out a kitchen. So they literally built a kitchen while they were on set working on this film. And then it says, we had designated a sushi chef for the kitchen. We really tried to avoid long hours, but if you do, it's a very welcoming environment which to spend a few extra hours in. Hopefully with due time, the VFX budget increases that allows for more improvements. I'm looking forward to the day when we can pay our creatives more money. So he's saying here that even with the budget that we had essentially this film, we were able to build kind of like our own studio. We were able to build our own kitchen. We had pretty solid food for our kitchen as well, so we didn't cut corners there. And we made it a very relaxed environment and made it an environment that people were actually committed to working to. And obviously we got the end result here, Godzilla minus one, which is still in my top 10 best movies of last year. He continues here by saying that if there's a solid vision process throughout the process of making a single film, then I think there's a way to cut down costs. Yes, there's trial and error costs, bouncing around each other's ideas. It is necessary to an extent, but if you clearly communicate your vision, then maybe there is no need to do a lot of experimenting on the side that eats up a lot of cost and time. So, like I said, he was able to do all this with $13 million American. That's American money, by the way. And you look at what Marvel is doing with their cinematic universe, they're spending no less than $250 to $300 million on production alone. The visuals look absolutely abysmal. There's no heart or soul to any of the process. It's like, just stand in front of a blue screen, we'll tie you up to a wire, you punch, kick, and then we'll finish like 70% of the film in post-production with our VXX team, and then we throw out crap that people are going to forget about after the first week. And that's pretty much how we're doing it here in the United States. Meanwhile, Japan is doing something that's actually knocking it out of the park for what, 1/16 of the cost that we're doing here. So it's like, if we start getting to a point where, I think I mentioned this on Friday. I mentioned this on our Friday, maybe even on Saturday, where when it looks at the American film market, we used to be the gold standard that all the other countries followed, right? Like, we used to be the format that everyone would follow. People like China would mimic us, South Korea, Russia, India, like everyone would be following our lead. Now we're at the point where our film industry is so abysmal that other countries are actually doing our model better than us, and they're producing better films than we are. Like, the films that are being produced in South Korea are far better than the ones that are being produced here. There's even some films that come out of India. I'm not a big India film fan, but there's a lot more heart and soul that goes into those films than the ones that we're releasing out here from major studios. And it's just like, clearly there's a problem here. I don't know if it's a competency. I don't know if it's money laundering. I don't know if, we're trying to pay for, we need to pay The Rock $30 million and we need to pay his entourage, so that's going to balloon the budget to $170 million, and then we lose like $400 million on a film here. Something's going to have to break here, because if Japan starts dunking on us with the type of movies that they're doing over there on a fraction of the budget, like we're in trouble. Like we're in deep trouble. Orange Hat, you did a video on this earlier today, so I want to kind of relay some of your thoughts on this whole situation. What's your thoughts on Godzilla director here, basically showing Hollywood how it should be done?
Well, I think that he has a good point. They need to budget better. And it really, you basically said or hit the nail on the head. They can't, or US movies just aren't good anymore. And we used to be the gold standard, except that we've now become less. We've essentially become copperlight, fool's gold. And one of the things about Japan is they don't pay their workers a lot of money. That's the one reason why this movie didn't cost that much. They do not pay their workers as much as we pay ours. And you know what? Maybe if the US started docking pay, started actually paying them for what they're worth and not what the states and stuff say. Maybe if we go back to merit instead of feelings, we might actually have a movie that does a successful job in the box office because it didn't cost that much to do, because then maybe the effects people in the jobs might actually be like, oh, okay, well, if we're not going to get paid as much, maybe we do need to do a better job. But knowing the American, or sadly how they are now, they'd be like, oh, if you're not going to pay me this, then why the hell should I do you any favors? Well, I'm sorry, but the American way used to be you frickin' get what you pay for, and if you actually prove to be better, you'll get paid more. That's just how it used to be. Unfortunately, it's not. But when it comes to Godzilla -1, Hollywood just they didn't just get punched in the eye and got a black eye. They got 2 black eyes, a bloody nose, a broken nose, and a busted chin when it came to Godzilla -1. That's why they didn't do a clean sweep in the Oscars with it. Not that the Oscars mean anything anymore, but it's also because of the frickin' diversity rules. But when it comes to Godzilla -1 doing an infinitely better job than the Marvels and these other movies that America has made, that just goes to show you that when you have a passionate crew and a passionate cast, you're going to make a passionate movie that tells, or that really hits with the audience. And that is why Godzilla was successful, where all these movies that are basically just money grabs in the US box office, they're not successful enough.
Rob pointed this out in the chat. This movie, Godzilla -1, cost the exact same amount as Lisa Frankenstein. The exact same budget.
They can stretch the yen much more.
Yeah, and I'll say this: it really depends on what you do with your budget. Okay, you know, and this is all throughout history. This Hollywood. This is what they used to do so well. This is what the studio system. Why it was the golden era of filmmaking was because everything was in house, and it was about doing it on a relatively as cheaply as you can, and but to make it as grand and as interesting and as captivating as possible. The studio system was built for this very thing, this very economic way of making movies. And it comes down to your director and his crew that he assembles, and you know, coming in on time. Hollywood has gotten too big. They've gotten bloated. And you have a lot of people who are sort of insulated by the system. Studio executives, sometimes it's producers, sometimes it's screenwriters. I mean, Marvel is just like, I've never enjoyed these movies, to be fair. But they've gotten worse and worse in terms of their budget, in terms of what they're demanding, meaning you have to make even more money every single time. If you're increasing the budget, that means you have to increase the box office. It's almost like a balloon payment with interest or something, where it's like it's going to kill you at some point. It's going to get too big and it's going to pop. And so that's what I see. I personally, this is not the kind of movie that gets nominated at the Academy Awards. Pacific Rim didn't. So, I mean, I'm not that surprised, but it came very late in the year. I think it's got one VFX nomination, but and look, from everybody that's seen it, they've raved about it. They've said it's great. I'm looking forward to being able to see it sometime. But I'm probably gonna have to wait till it comes out on disc or VOD. So this is a Hollywood problem right now. The fact that they don't have anything that people want to see, and Marvel is just dying. I mean, they are bleeding. You could say that they're the same company that's trotting out the same products. I don't think so. I mean, even people that have loved, that first wave up into the Avengers, whatever, would probably agree with me. But yeah, at this point, I just think it's going to be, Hollywood either needs to fix their problem or it's going to be lights out time.
Well, doing a quick look for the Academy Award for visual effects. Spider-Man so far is the only, Spider-Man 2, actually, it's the only comic book based film to win in this category. No Marvel film has ever won. Not Iron Man 2 or 3, Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3 is the only Marvel film to be nominated this year. All the others are not. I mean, yeah. So when I look at Godzilla -1, they actually use their budget and their effects to move the story along, and they use it sparingly. You don't see Godzilla often. When you do, it's still memorable. With Marvel, you look at the effects; they've gotten worse. There's no way that you could look at something like the first Iron Man and then look at what was that, Thor: Love and Thunder, and tell me that the effects have improved. No, they've gotten worse for a variety of reasons. They're pushing their crew as hard as they can, trying to, I guess, rush things into production. You saw it, and they were overworked. They were exhausted. I don't blame a lot of the VFX crew, because they were working under very difficult conditions and trying to do as much as they could with the budget that they had and the time that they had. And they were told, no, you have to go back. You have to go back. After a while, they just get worn down. Godzilla -1 really uses effects well. I think Rob knows also, when you went to some noir films, that their small budget forced them to be creative. You look at small films like Detour or Gun Crazy. They had tiny budgets, and that forced them to use what they had to the best of their ability, and they created great works. Here, I think the same thing. Although, granted, 12 million is a pretty large budget, but they actually managed to use them well compared to something like Detour. All right.
But we're talking about 1945. We're talking about World War
true.
II, where they had limited money. So
Yeah, but it's not a small amount. I don't know. Is 12 million a small? Well, compared to Marvel, yes. Compared to Marvel, they know how to use the money, and they planned it ahead. Here with Marvel, it's just like, oh well, we'll just give them bigger and better, and people will be rushing. They forget it's not just the effects; it's the story. And if you look at the nominees this year, I think the creator is the only one that would give Godzilla -1 a run for its money. Now, none of us liked the creator
it looked
story-wise,
good though.
but yes, the effects at least were used well, and they didn't spend as much, certainly, as Marvel. I think they spent more than Godzilla -1, but they did not have anywhere near the budget of any Marvel movie. You compare the effects to Godzilla -1, Mania, and tell me,
And like you have to think about it from this perspective too. Before we answer Neil's question here, it's like the Marvels cost $275 million to produce. There were no big name actors in that film. Like Brie Larson was the biggest star of that entire movie. How do you even justify spending that much on that film? Because it didn't go to the actors clearly. And you look at the visual effects. I don't know if you're paying people by the hour, but it wasn't by actual quality. So What is going on with these budgets going on? Is there actually money laundering going on here? Because
a lot of the money went to buy the music rights to Memory from Cats. Okay, Andrew Lloyd Webber ain't cheap.
Neil has the question here. Says, do you think small budget or a budget limit makes for a better movie? Because films like the first Star Wars, Halloween, Rocky, Blair Witch, Matchmaker, all small budget. Look, I've tinkered with the idea, even though I know it's never going to happen. Because I mean, let's be honest, it's Hollywood. But I've tinkered with the idea of, yeah, maybe we should have like a salary cap in Hollywood, where we just be like, you know what, here's your budget. If you can't maintain this budget, then you just no, absolutely not. I just don't see the justification for a lot of these films that are going into like the mid 9 figures to produce now. I mean,
my issue with that real quick is just that, we're not talking about art here. Okay. We're talking about intellectual property movies. We're talking about blockbuster movies. Okay. It's completely different when it's an artist that has a track record. Granted, here's the greatest thing, right? Martin Scorsese is my favorite director. Do you know how many flops that dude has had? I mean, like, there's no real justification to keep giving him money at this point. But it's like he has a track record of making great films. And that used to be the trade-off, by the way. We will let you make your movies as long, if you do one for us, if you do one for the studios, for, you do a blockbuster or whatever, or even just at the studio, hey, we have these 3 movies that's going to pay for if this one fails. You know what I mean? Economically, they used to be much smarter about this kind of thing. And so at the start of the 70s, when they all were sold, to big corporations and the moguls were not there anymore, it started this precipitous decline. And Marvel is just like it's because it's so expensive, because it's so inflated in terms of the cost. It's gonna, like I said, it's gonna choke them at some point.
Yeah, you can't keep
it's choking them now.
You can't keep the world's longest and most expensive soap opera running. And real quick note here. Martin Scorsese's movie Hugo actually won Best Visual Effects. So it beat out. There were no Marvel movies that year, but yes, his movie actually won Best Visual Effects before a Marvel movie. So just throwing that out there. No, but I'll answer the question, Neil Oak's question. Yes, sometimes you can actually make a better movie with limited budget or a smaller budget, because again, you're forced to economize and you have to rely on other factors, the story, the acting. It forces you to make creative decisions. When you throw money at something, it's like, oh, well, we can reshoot. That's why you're having all of these reshoots for all of these, including that new Captain America movie, because you can throw money at it. You don't have to worry about the script. You can say, hey, we're just going to reshoot it again, or we'll fix it in post. Did we get a better TV show with Echo or with any of the other Marvel movies with a bigger budget? Wasn't the budget for She-Hulk bigger than Godzilla -1?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, wasn't it like $2 million an episode, or maybe it was more than that?
No, it was more than that. Like,
okay.
I think She-Hulk wasn't She-Hulk like 220 or 212 or something like that for that whole season? It was something like massive.
So that's like $20 million an episode, or even more? Because I don't even think there were
probably more.
How many episodes were there? 10?
I think it was only like 8.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6.
Oh my god, that means each episode was more than $25 million an episode. That is insane.
Yeah. So it was 10 episodes actually. It had a total budget of $225 million. So it was $25 million an episode for
25
She-Hulk.
million. That's what one about 1 hour long, right? More give or take. They made
was
a
it
Godzilla.
an hour? Because some of them went longer, but I think like on average it was like 30 minutes.
Now, okay, so that's, you realize they made a Godzilla movie for less than about 2 or 3 episodes of a TV show. That,
no, literally one episode of She-Hulk cost more than the entire Godzilla -1. One episode.
Hey, yeah, give them the Oscar just for that. That is clearly an embarrassment. You're spending there. Who's in charge? There's no one. There's no one in charge of the finances. It kind of reminds me of how Cleopatra, the Elizabeth Taylor movie, was so out of control that it practically destroyed the studio.
Put it to you this way: name me one person in charge of like any business whatsoever who can massively overspend to that degree and still have their job?
Joe Biden.
Why is Disney the exception? Disney and the president of the United States. Why are they the only two exceptions?
Because they're too big to fail.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And even what was it? Secret Invasion, which was the other Disney Plus series, that had a total budget of $210 million. All on visual effects. I think even Cider brought this up maybe a couple nights ago when we were doing the stream. He said that they even admitted that for the She-Hulk twerking scene, like people had to like work a ridiculous amount of hours just to get that 10-second scene to actually look somewhat presentable. Like people worked on having She-Hulk twerk with Megan Thee Stallion, and people put money and a budget behind that. Like,
see, and this is why, like, this is why I will stand up for somebody with an artistic vision, where it's like, okay, you want an impressive tracking shot that's going to hold up traffic, and we don't even see this anymore. It's so rare, but we're gonna hold up traffic. We're gonna take the time to get it right because we're making art. God damn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that was the impulse. And I in the 70s, I was with all of those directors who wanted to do shit like that. Francis Ford Coppola, Ridley Scott, you know, Hal Ashby, all of these great artists, and none of them, I mean, there's a few that still exist, but most movie productions, it's like reshoots. That is like a death knell to profitability of a movie. That's like, oh, okay, we're just gonna set money on fire right now.
You couldn't imagine anyone.
Just real quick, Rick, before you go to your point, how many MCU projects right now are currently in reshoots? They're reshooting the Captain America movie that's being completely reshot. Marvel's had reshoots. Deadpool, I think it got extended shoots for the whole writer strike, so that budget's probably gonna balloon as well. And they haven't even started. What was it? Thunderbolts. That's probably going to have to get revamp. And then keep in mind, we'll talk. We'll save that one for the end here because this goes into it too. But Rick, I'll let you continue here before I bring this up.
Well, no, I was just going to say, you look at the budgets for all of those shows. I mean, no, there's just no justification for the wild spending. No, I was just reminded when Rob was talking about tracking shots. What filmmaker now, certainly who works with Marvel, would do what Orson Welles did with Touch of Evil, which was supposed to be just a B film? He decided, no, I'm going to make my film, and he created that opening shot. And he even still got mad because they forced the title credits onto the opening.
He pissed them off so bad,
yeah,
with the way he did that movie. And then he hired, I think it was Marlene Dietrich as the fortune teller lady.
Yeah, and she's supposed to be Mexican, which is even stranger. Point being, you don't have those kind of people taking those risks. Instead, what you have are all these people who spend $40 million on Echo, of all things. And we saw their effects. They were lousy. I mean, it was clear that they were bad. And all of these people spend much more on a 6 episode. Remember, Echo was what? One of 5 episodes, right?
It was supposed to be 8, then it got dropped to 6, and then it got dropped to 5.
5. And we saw the results, and they had to reshoot it again. And then you managed to make Godzilla for what?
12.
12, 24, 30. I mean, you could make 3 Godzillas basically with 1 Echo and still have leftover.
Yeah, like I said, this is just the total budget here. She-Hulk and WandaVision are the 2 most expensive at $225 million each. So essentially, they made an entire film and split it into a Disney Plus series with those shows alone. You had Secret Invasion 212, Falcon Winter Soldier 150, Miss Marvel 150, really? Hawkeye 150, Loki season 1 150, Moon Knight was one. Like, why are we spending? Like, here's the thing. You guys remember the story of Home Alone? About how Home Alone became like a thing. Home Alone was originally supposed to be a Warner Brothers movie in it was like 1980 something was when they were filming it. Warner Brothers gave them an initial budget of $13 million. They went over budget $1.7 million. The total budget was $14.7 million. Warner Brothers shut the film down because it went $1.7 million over budget. Now, obviously, 20th Century Fox bought the film afterwards, so they were able to continue the movie, but back in 1989, Warner Brothers was willing to shut a film down that went over budget $1.5 million. And here we are in 2024, and they're blowing like $300 million on superhero movies that are never going to get a return back in a movie theater.
This is nothing new. I know since I referenced Cleopatra, I don't know if Rob got to the stories about Cleopatra, where what I think it was Joe Mankiewicz said that there's probably an executive in Hong Kong, a Fox executive, taking 2 hookers for lunch, and he's billing it to my movie because there's literally nowhere else to bill anything for 20th Century Fox. That budget was just exploded, and it nearly brought down the studio. It was a complete scandal.
And yet it eventually made a profit.
Yes, but it took about 6 or 8 years.
But that's what's about the current economic model. It's like it's not feasible. It's like you're trying to jam all these people into seats, and they're like, we don't want to be here. We don't want to see this shit. Like it's insane. It's like they've told you time and again, stop going down this road because you will fail, and they're still going after it. It's almost like they're trying to ruin this business.
They're chasing a phantom audience. They have this firm belief that people are so invested in the world's longest and most expensive soap opera that they'll keep going, and they'll keep going to the TV shows. None of that has proven true, but they are determined to continue because they're addicted. They're addicted, and it's not their money ultimately. It's I don't know where they're getting the money.
Also,
but it's
Cleopatra is why Carrie Fisher has daddy issues. Because I learned that Eddie Fisher, her father, was with Elizabeth Taylor. She left him for Richard Burton. I was just like, okay, the story behind the movie is more interesting than the movie.
Yeah, you need to, if you ever find the documentary, it's.
Well, I read the book on 20th Century and Zanuck, and they kind of went over that. So
yeah, when AMC actually cared about movies, they made a great documentary about it. But yeah, they haven't learned. From 1963, they haven't learned. They're going to. I don't know if Marvel Studios will eventually fall, but yeah, nobody cares about Phase 5. But they're still gonna keep plunging more and more movies until we get Secret Wars or whatever. I don't care.
A movie that's now been pushed back to 2027, barring any further reshoots and delays. 2027 we'll get Secret Wars, guys. Aren't you excited? But Rooftop Korean brings up a good point here. It's like, why are they doing this while they're still spending so much money on their streaming platforms and not getting any new subscribers? Did you guys hear that apparently Fox, Disney, and Warner Brothers are all teaming up to create a new sports streaming service, which is basically just going to combine like 3 channels and put it on the one? So they're desperately trying to find a way to build revenue where there's just no revenue right now, because they don't want to accept the fact that they're losing money and that they're losing millions to billions of dollars.
Now, this new network, is it going to have the WNBA?
Maybe, yeah. If ESPN's involved, yeah, the WNBA will definitely be involved.
All right, well, I'm signing up.
And to answer Neozoic here about Apocalypse Now, yes, that's an insane story of the production. I believe there's a documentary called Heart of Darkness about it. Francis Ford Coppola, I'm pretty sure, lost his mind at a certain point. Martin Sheen had a heart attack. The amount of money. I mean, he went to Cambodia to shoot a movie about a hallucinatory movie about Vietnam. You know what I mean? I love that movie, but that shoot sounded like a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, it's a sad story when Dennis Hopper is probably the most sane person in the entire production.
Marlon Brando that was the start of him pulling all his shit, where he could just seeing what he could get away with, because he was in command. At least they needed him for that role, and he came in overweight. He
didn't bother learning his lines.
No, reading about the antics he used to pull is actually incredibly entertaining, but it will piss you off if you have any, respect for people's time and energy. And yeah, he was a dick.
And it's still lost Best Picture to
he was the Chevy.
Kramer versus Kramer.
Kramer.
That's why I hate that movie, because it's like, really, you won over Being There and Apocalypse Now, 2 superior movies.
All right, Orange, are you still there? Or are you just in the ether right now? Nah, he's still there. Bright lights, shining stars. Oh yeah, so I mean that's where it is. Hollywood's screwed. It's all going down in flames. And then, like I said, I don't know what anyone's doing. And then Netflix spends $5 billion on the WWE for Raw, not any other show, just for Raw. They spend $5 billion. It's like apparently everything we've been taught is a lie. Like we were under this assumption that we had to go to like this Ivy League school for like 7 years before we become like CEOs and make like big time decisions for these mortgage corporations. It's like I can do business this bad. I have like an associate's degree. That's all I needed just to make the stupid decision that these guys are making. Like none of this makes any rational sense.
Well,
this is where we
Jacob, the good news is that you and I could get hired as diversity hires. So,
that we can.
Yes,
so.
yes. Let's use our own privilege. Sorry, Rob, your quarter Mexican doesn't count here.
Cassie Marlon Brando was an asshole even in his older age. Just ask Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, 1979 on. Yes.
Oh no! I mean, you just need to go to what is it? The island of Dr. Moreau. And
I
see
love it.
What a nightmare!
I love it. How
was.
bad it is. Val Kilmer.
Well, let's go ahead and go to our closer here because talking about budget disasters here, let's talk about Daredevil Born Again. Now, before we talk about the Jon Bernthal aspect of this story, this is a Disney Plus series that was supposed to come out, I believe, like a year ago. They shot half of it. Like it was supposed to be like an 18 episode series. They shot half of it and shut down production halfway during the shooting because they realized the creative direction that they were going in was an absolute disaster. So Disney did the unthinkable, shut down production and scrapped the entire thing. Now they're reshooting the entire series. They brought in new writers. I believe they brought back members of the team from the Netflix series because apparently they wanted this Daredevil thing to be completely different from the Netflix series, which makes no sense considering the fact that everyone loved the Netflix series. Why would you move away from that in the first place? But it is another series that is absolutely falling on its face at the moment. And apparently it was so bad that Jon Bernthal, who plays the Punisher in the series, initially refused to even come back to be the Punisher because he did not like the creative direction that Disney was going with the Disney Plus series. So and another example of just stupid corporations doing really, really stupid things. The story here that apparently has been blowing up for Bounding here today. A lot of people are picking this up, at least on the social media aspect of this, is that we talk about the Marvel Netflix shows. When the Netflix shows came out, I think it's almost been like 10 years now, or maybe just about 10 years. Everyone was very positive on Daredevil, The Punisher, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones. Last couple of series, not so much, but overall, people generally like the direction of those Netflix series. Well, Disney essentially bought the rights back to those series to move it on their platform. They initially were just going to shut down the entire thing, but then when they started doing Disney Plus shows, they were like, well, hey, let's bring back Daredevil because people like Daredevil from Netflix, but they wanted to do something completely different from what they did in Netflix. So guess what happened? We get Daredevil and She-Hulk, and it's all been downhill since. The only time we've seen Daredevil is in She-Hulk and Echo, and that's absolutely sad to say, but that's absolutely true. But apparently one guy who did not want to come back to this thing unless there were some noticeable changes is Jon Bernthal. Here, let's just jump down a little bit further. TikTok star Cameron Silas, who I'd never heard of, but apparently she did get the scoop on this whole story, took to social media to share that she had an exchange with the actor at a recent like Comic-Con event that she attended, and basically what she alleges that he told her is that she says here that she had the pleasure of meeting John during this event, got to tell him about Daredevil Born Again, which is the series that was just being completely rewritten now. He says that he told her, this is what he says, that he hated what they were doing with the Daredevil project before the whole rewrite. He actually turned down the project, but now that Karen's back and obviously other characters that they brought back are associated with the series are back in it, now he's open to at least doing a cameo for the series. So his role in the Daredevil Born Again is alleged to be a cameo. He's not going to be like a full-fledged like member here, but he says that apparently that he was turning down the Marvel multiple times when it comes to playing the Punisher over and over again because they hadn't been getting things right. But he's now has a small part in Daredevil Born Again because it's good in his eyes. Keep in mind, Disney initially said that they weren't going to bring back the two actors who played Foggy and what's the girl's name here?
Karen
I'm blanking on
Page,
her.
I think.
Karen Page. Yeah, they originally weren't going to bring them back. When they fired and scrapped the first, iteration of this, they decided they were going to bring them back. They also fired Chris Ord and Matt Corman, who were the ones who were essentially the showrunners here. Fired them as well too. So. Oh, and they're also bringing back the actor who played Bullseye. He's supposed to be coming back to this whole thing too. So I guess somebody at Marvel smartened them up to the fact that it's like, hey, look, if we want people to actually be all in on this, then we have to at least look like what people are used and accustomed to, and that is the Netflix property. You can't deviate so far away from that because no one's going to end up supporting this. And look, I can only imagine how much they've already spent on the production of this that's probably never going to see the light of day. Like I said, they shot half of it, so that they at least did anywhere from 8 to 9 episodes before they figured out that this whole thing wasn't going to work. So imagine the amount of money that they spent filming 9 episodes that are going to completely go down to the shelf, never going to be seen again, and now they have to reshoot the entire 18 episode series all over again based on this. Like, this is just a complete and utter disaster. Thanks to the rewrites and the pushbacks and the reshoots and the scrapping, this is a series that probably won't even come out until 2026 at this point. So this is still a full 2 years away from actually seeing the light of day, and they still haven't put everything together to even shoot this thing right now. This comes on the heels of, like I said, Brave New World has to go through a massive amount of reshoots. They're going to be reshooting that film over the spring and the summer. Blade has a whole bunch of production issues. The stars of that film are not happy about the creative direction of that movie. By the way, they fired Jonathan Majors, so the whole thing about Phase 5 was leading to Kang the Conqueror being the main villain, and now he's gone too, so they don't know what to do with him. They don't know what they're going to do with Secret Wars. Everything about the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now is an absolute mess. They have no idea what they're doing. And like I said, Deadpool 3, the movie that everyone's talking about on social media right now, that's their Hail Mary. If Deadpool 3 is a stinker, it's over. Like, it's absolutely over. Like, not even just a stinker, it has to be a massive box office success or they're done. It's no more coming back for them here. So Rick, I'll start this one off with you. What is your thoughts on the Punisher here basically saying no repeatedly to coming back to the series because they don't know what the hell they're doing?
Well, perhaps it reflects well that he actually cares about the character and what his work was before Disney got their hands on this property. Well, good on him, I guess. But again, I don't know anyone who's so invested in following all of these stories anymore. Why? They're just throwing money away at this point. There's no point for this. Maybe they should just shut the whole thing down. But they are so determined. They're so determined to bleed this property dry that they will take everyone down with them. And that's what Bernthal didn't want. He was not going to go down with this ship. But again, why not? If they were really that desperate, why not just recast? I guess they were willing to not hire original people from others. Was Jon Bernthal so integral that he needed to come back? I don't know. I never saw the original, but no, they could have just rehired someone else. But they wanted to bring something as close to what they had before, and so they kept pushing him. But I guess in his case, he actually cares about his career, and he cares enough to not want to be associated with a very bad property or something that he felt was going to be very bad. So no, in this case, he's putting his own interests ahead of, I guess, the fans' desire to see more of the Punisher. So good for him. I really don't have much to add other than that. And well, real quick, I've never liked Deadpool. I hated the first one. I refused to watch the second one, and I'm not watching the third one.
You're very smart.
Thank you. I have my moments.
Orange Chat, what are your thoughts on this story?
Well, Jon Bernthal has stated several times that he is passionate about the Punisher. He wants the Punisher to be done right, and apparently Disney didn't want to go in that direction. So it makes sense that he wouldn't want to continue. But I mean, that's par for the course for Disney because Disney just wants to make a quick buck. They don't want to make it lasting money. As for the Deadpool 3 trailer, I saw it. It's like, okay, that's interesting. I might go see it, but I might not. All depends. But when it comes to Daredevil Born Again and The Punisher, maybe they need to allow Jon Bernthal to have some creative say over how best to portray the Punisher. And maybe they need to allow it because honestly, you're not going to get any quality out of it unless you do that. Because Jon Bernthal played the Punisher very well in the Netflix series. Honestly, I think that he was actually one of the best Punishers. I like Thomas Jane's Punisher a little bit more, but Jon Bernthal is a very close second. Still haven't seen Warzone or the Dolph Lundgren one, but yeah. I think that Jon Bernthal is right to step away from Disney if they do not have the best interest of a character like the Punisher at heart.
Well, we should force Cassie to go watch Deadpool 3 and have her review it on the show. That's what we should do.
Yeah, because I'm not reviewing it.
Oh, why? Is there some actor in that film that you've made some kind of oath against?
Well, I'm not a fan of Ryan Reynolds, but that's neither here nor there.
Rob, what do you
will
think?
ban you from Canada.
The more I see and listen to Ryan Reynolds, I'm like, yeah, that guy is completely full of shit. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the Netflix Daredevil series. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it's based on the Frank Miller graphic novel, which I've been waiting to buy that. I think I'm going to finally buy the reprinting that's coming out in May of that omnibus. You know, and I like Frank Miller as a comic book writer. Yes, writer. There we go. Sin City, his Batman comics, and I'm really looking forward to the Daredevil omnibus, especially if it's, you know, the basis of this Netflix show. I thought it was great. I thought it was what I got out of that was so much of what's lacking in really the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I just thought it was so well done. And what made it so successful was a lot of the supporting actors, whether it's the guy who plays Foggy Nelson, the woman who plays Karen Page. I'm blanking on their names. Like that guy who played Foggy Nelson was actually in Killers of the Flower Moon for like a scene. It was like one of the weird
Ducks.
Yeah, it was one of the weirdest things. I mean, and yeah, the actor I think played a high school bully a bunch. Like I've seen him. Like I've seen him in other stuff. It just had a really strong supporting cast. And I think Disney Plus is trying to rekindle that. But if the writing is not there, if they didn't bring back the writing team, I would be very suspect to believe that it's going to return to form. So I haven't watched any Disney Plus property. I'm probably not going to start now with Daredevil. Yeah. So, and Deadpool, like Deadpool, the first one was okay. But I definitely saw it at a certain point of being like, oh, this edgy corporate product pretending to be, you know, rebellious and going against the grain when it's the most obvious thing you could be. So, you know, look, fans are excited about the third one. Yeah. So
Second one
one
wasn't as
sucks.
good. Yeah. I like the unrated version of the first one.
Like I said, the first one I give credit for being a solid, good film. But yeah, the second one was definitely a step below. So I mean, if this film that they're doing now is anything like the second one, then yeah, they're done. Like they're
Tell me where your fucking boss is, or you're gonna die in 5 minutes. You can't get much better than that as a threat, you know?
Yep. What'd you say, Rick?
Oh no, I was gonna say, I guess maybe the excitement for Deadpool 3 is having, I guess, Wolverine come back from the dead and have, you know, a very dour Wolverine versus the very obnoxious Deadpool. I have no interest. So, like, I guess that's what fans want, and they all are squealing with delight. But I have no interest one way or the other to see that, because I saw Origins Wolverine, and that was enough for me.
Oh, you should have seen the ending of Deadpool 2 then, because he kind of rectified that a little bit.
Doesn't it undercut Logan though? Or are we talking about a completely separate universe here? 'Cause
They,
that's
they,
where it
they that
lies,
was one of
right?
the first things that they addressed too. It's like, don't worry, this is a completely different universe, or this takes place well before Logan, so you don't have to worry about like Logan and anything like that. Because, like I
It's
said,
gonna-
Hugh Jackman said after Logan, he swore that he was never going to play this character again, and then they backed the Brinks truck to his house. It's like, oh, guess who's back?
So that means that Wolverine is going to look older, but it's going to he's going to be younger. Is that what I'm going to? Is that my understanding?
Not really. So here's from what I saw with the trailer for Deadpool 3, they're going based on kind of like the Loki angle where it's the TVA and they're trying to fix, all of the multiverses and the timelines and all this whole stuff. So Deadpool is kind of like their agent to go around from timeline to universe and fix things. That's kind of what they're going for here. So I guess that we're going to get maybe a slightly younger Wolverine in this whole film, but then again, literally the entire draw of this movie is that we get to see a 60-year-old man wear a costume that he probably should have put on like 25 years ago, if we're being honest with ourselves here. So that's pretty much the draw.
Watch Hugh Jackman come out of the closet like 2 weeks before the movie premieres. It's like, hey, for the first time ever, it's gay Wolverine.
Dude, if he does that's how you know Disney's like panicking behind the scenes. Like, quick, come out and say you're gay. Maybe people will go see it.
Just
it's
because
kinda
he
hard
played
for
a
him
gay
to do
man on
that.
Broadway does not make him gay. Okay.
I know.
It's very hard for him to do that anyway. He's got a wife and two or
No, they're
three
divorced.
kids.
No, they divorced.
They
Yeah.
divorced,
Yeah.
and the kids are adopted. I believe.
Shocker. Doba Fett actually brings up a great point. Like the X-Men timeline in and of itself is an absolute mess with all like the time travel and like the parallel characters, and it's like, oh, we got the characters from the today, then the characters from the 70s and all this stuff. Now we're gonna add the multiverse to this whole thing. It's like, how can we possibly make this more fucking confusing? Add multiverses to it. Yeah, that'll work out.
My sense
To
is
be
that
in
some
all
of these.
honesty,
Go ahead, Orange. Sorry.
well, small bit here. Then you can go. To be completely honest, the shit that I'm writing right now as a fan fiction is probably infinitely better than anything that Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be.
Well, no, I was just going to. I'm just observing that it just seems that with all of these people really asking for their particular superhero to come back again and again, it almost makes me think that there are these older men or fans who just cannot let go and continually want to have their fantasies lived out. Yes, we want to see Hugh Jackman one more time. Yeah, so what if he played Wolverine when I was in high school? Yeah, let's have him keep going now that I have kids. It's like, you need to let go.
I'm gonna give you some inside baseball here of how long this whole thing's been going on. I won a DVD of the first X-Men movie during a 7th grade book fair. Remember, maybe you guys are old enough here. I'm gonna try to date myself here. Remember when they had like those little things where you're like in school where you would like read a book and then you would have to like take a test to prove that you actually read the book, and then once you pass the test, you can like collect points to get like free stuff.
Accelerator.
Like, the book. Yeah, that whole thing. That's essentially what I did, and my prize was literally getting the DVD of the first X-Men movie in the year 2000.
I tried to fake that.
Was
I
it
read
the
Gone with
X-Men
the
movie or
Wind.
was it the X-Men 1.5?
It was the first X-Men movie. It wasn't the 1.5. It was like the OG X-Men film.
So I tried faking that test, saying I read Gone with the Wind because it was the highest point total.
Oh my
And I failed miserably. So yeah.
I had to read that in middle school.
Yeah, it was
I
7th
actually read
grade.
it. Yeah.
I was really into
My
sports
book shit,
novels.
I did Two Towers.
I mean, I figured anyone who read those Harry Potter books was killing it back then, but I mean,
they didn't count those,
No.
unfortunately.
Oh, I love the book fairs.
There was a lot of shit that happened or it was after I got out of school, but when they started doing the Harry Potter movies, somebody actually tried doing the Sorcerer's Stone, and they automatically failed their book course because they based it off the movie, and there is so many differences in between the books and movies.
And again, it's these grown people who can't let go of things. The same people who literally are playing Quidditch, and have leagues, also want Hugh Jackman to continue playing Wolverine until he's dead. And they also were cheering and squeeing when was it 90-year-old Patrick Stewart pops up in, was it Multiverse of Madness? Enough. At a certain point, you need to let go. The multiverse is just an excuse to get older actors from your past to keep playing parts that they're long past the appropriate age to play, and whom they should be just give to younger people. It's time for a new generation. Kind of like the election. It's kind of time to let these older men just no longer run the country or run the various comic book adaptations. It's time to let go, people.
You hear that, football fans? Let it go.
That's what I've been saying.
And on that point, yeah, we're just gonna go ahead. Unless you guys have any final thoughts on this whole story, like I said, I think we've made the point very, very clear that this whole thing's a mess and it ain't getting any better. So,
well, good on Bernthal
Never will.
for deciding to put his own career ahead of trying to please fans.
Bernthal should work with Ben Affleck on The Accountant too. He can go back to working with Ben Affleck on The Accountant too.
No, I think it should be
do I
changed
still
to
have?
X-Women.
I might still have it.
We need to change it to X-Women, Roberto, because
So this is
the women.
This is for my parents' DVD collection, but we've got X-Men First Class, X-Men X2, X-Men United, and X-Men The Last Stand. So there you go.
Do you really need The Last Stand?
I literally went to see that in theaters with my mom when I was grounded. When I was like 16.
That was your punishment. And
That was how lenient my mom was. Was like, oh, you're grounded.
That's the
when I'm
best
taking you to a
version
movie.
of it. The
And
road cut.
It's unopened. I haven't even opened this yet. It's still on my job. Yep.
Dude, that's actually the best version of the
because the plot actually makes sense when you put Rogue in the freaking movie.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and also it's alternative enough that it's almost a different movie in some ways.
Yep.
But
All right.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we reached the end of the show here, so this is the time when I have you guys promote anything that you guys have coming up here. So I guess we'll start off with Rick. What do you have that you want to tell people about?
Yeah, I've just got more reviews.
Oh, I got everyone with the second time. That was great.
Yeah.
Thanks for making me deaf. Holy fuck.
Yeah, now I lost hearing in one ear. Thank you. Yeah, no, just my reviews, and I've already got my tickets for Madame Web and Bob Marley One Love, and I'm already starting to regret at least one of them. That's it.
All right, then. If you can still hear us, Orange Hat, you're next.
Well, you can find me tomorrow on Jade Shadow's channel at 8 p.m. We're talking Underworld 1, the unrated edition, re-edited with the Rise of the Lycans footage in it. Then Thursday, my channel, same time, we're talking the original My Bloody Valentine. And next week is Underworld 2 on hers and My Bloody Valentine remake on mine on Thursday. Next Tuesday is in the afternoon. Or no, wait, scratch that. Monday in the afternoon is going to be the theme stream because Tuesday I am doing my final follow-up over the kidney stone debacle from last year. So yeah, Monday is going to be Fright Night original versus Fright Night remake. Which one's better? And I just recently did the Fantastic Four versus Fantastic Four, or Fan Four stick rather. And well, it's kind of obvious that the original won out. But yep, other than that, I also do my weekly recaps on Sunday nights. And Orange Hat Uncensored on Friday nights. So yeah.
All righty then. And then joining finally our good buddy Rob Motto. What do you got coming up?
Yep. So I'm doing my third podcast episode tomorrow. My podcast is called You're Not Very Important to Me. Or You're Not Really Important to Me from American Psycho. So that's a fun. I've been waiting to use that for years. So you're not terribly important to me there. See, I forget. So we're going to be talking about Terry Gilliam's interview with TCM about Schindler's List and what Stanley Kubrick thought of it. I'm going to be going over Lars von Trier's comments about how he understands Hitler from like 2014. And I'm just going to be going through my own kind of personal movie collection. So look forward to that around noon tomorrow. It'll be on my Twitter there at the bottom of the screen, and on my YouTube, and I'll share a link in the chat so you guys are at least aware of it. And then I've got a ton of reviews to do. I didn't do anything today, just kind of later on the house. So just try to get that done. I have Madam Web to go watch, which I hear is god awful. But, I was really, really happy to see how Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney showed up to the premiere. And if you don't know, there are pictures. So that's really my only motivation other than being, a movie critic to go see this movie. But thanks, Spider-Man fans.
Watch it.
So we'll see. But yeah, just keep following my Twitter, and I'll be releasing stuff there.
All right. Then you guys know what we got coming up here next week on the Bar Room. We should have Masters of TDS and his wife joining us on the show. I know she's kind of sick right now, so I'll have to keep in touch with him to see what's going on. But they did say that they were making plans to be on the show next week, so that'll be next week's Bar Room podcast. This Friday night, obviously, we're going to be talking about Madam Web and the Bob Marley movie that are out for the Friday Night Movie Club. Monday, this coming Monday on the Bible Lens podcast, it's going to be me and Spencer talking about some biblical issues, especially our differences in biblical issues as well. So that should be a pretty interesting podcast. Check out on Monday. Like I said, if you haven't checked out our last night podcast with me and Rob, we talked about the whole Illuminati priest class thing. Go check that out from last night's show. It's on our YouTube, Rumble as well. And then, like I said, that's pretty much what we got coming up. Tomorrow night, I'll be back on the 01 podcast with Spencer and Insider, talking about some of the biggest stories of the week. And that's pretty much all I can think of right now. So thank you everyone for joining us here for the show tonight. Neozoic, Doba Fett, Banya, Duke, Paulie Deltino Slant, Kate, Josh Spencer, Rooftop Korean, Vanya, JEC, Alex, Duke Nukem. I think we already said him too, but for everyone who joined us tonight, hopefully we guys will see you for next Tuesday's show. If not, we'll see you Friday night or Monday night, but we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up now. Good night everyone. Adios, goodbye, peace.
It's over. Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Okay.
Get out! Get out! You get the hell out!
Never mind who you thought I was. I'm Rick James, bitch.